This is Two Nerds and a Joke with Robert and Ernie.
Thanks, disembodied hot girl voice. This is Two Nerds and a Joke with Robert and Ernie. I am Ernie.
And I am Robert, ready for the summer?
Ready for the summer.
Ready for the summer. School's over. It's here. Hurricane season. It's exciting.
Well, yes. Living in the great state of Florida, we're now in hurricane season. So, but like the whole thing is like the start of summer is Memorial Day.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the official start.
Yeah, we just didn't we just pass it, or was that Veterans Day? No, it was Memorial Day. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we passed it, and we passed it under 5 days of rain. It's
Oh yeah, it was awful.
Continuous rain.
Oh yeah, it was every day, every hour of every day. It was quite intense.
Yes, it was.
And we had to spend a lot of time indoors. And when you're indoors, of course, you have to watch streaming stuff.
Oh, the streams are where they're at.
Yes. And I know we've talked a lot in the last couple of episodes about the stream. There's just so much going on. And I know today Ernie just got thrilled and excited over the last, week? 2 weeks?
Wow.
Yeah.
What a life we live, right? Being in what we find entertainment, like the whole comic book genre, and the fact that some of us, mainly me, feel like we were cheated out of a lot the past couple years. We're talking about the DC extended universe.
Right. And you guys, we all were to a certain extent of what it could have been.
Yeah. You know, we had the Man of Steel, which came out to mixed reviews, but it was still better than anything we've seen in a long time. And we were like, yes, give us more of this. And, Warner Brothers was like, yeah, we're going to push through. Zack Snyder has this vision. He's coming out with another movie soon. And then BVS was hyped. And everything was going to hinge on that movie. However, the popularity of the Marvel franchise really went to a place that no one anticipated.
Yeah, and it overshadowed and colored the commentary and what was said about and how it was received and how people complained and how there were and it just went on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
And they didn't do it great. It was a good story that they poorly executed. They shoved a lot into one thing that they shouldn't have done. And then it came down to, okay, now all this is done. Now what's next? And it was, of course, what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah. So after you had BVS, you had the backlash, you had the interwebs. Essentially, everyone who had a voice on the internet suddenly became like experts in screenplay, experts in movie scripting and VFX and all this stuff. And essentially, Warner Bros. Was like, look, we're tired of the negative press. We already have these 2 movies already shot. We had the Suicide Squad and Justice League, and we want them reshot like a Marvel movie. And that's what happened. And even though they did well box office wise, we still saw a lot of backlash, and then they kind of faded away. And then as they faded, somebody, I guess, interviewed Zack Snyder, I think at a con or something like that. And he basically says, well, what you guys saw of Justice League wasn't what I shot. There's still so much more movie that I shot that wasn't put in there.
And then the internet went insane.
Yes. And then it started with release the Snyder Cut. Hashtag release the Snyder Cut. And it started on Twitter. Like, essentially every other conversation was release the Snyder Cut. And every now and then you'd have a Marvel fan that would come on there trying to make a name for himself, basically saying, the movie sucked. What good is it to, release this cut? Because all it is what? It's like a director's cut. What is he going to do? Add a couple scenes? Things like that. And then it got real when you heard that the actors themselves started coming out. Like Ezra Miller was like, look, I had a whole origin story in here where I saved Iris. Like, it was in the trailer, but wasn't in the movie. I don't know if you saw it, where, like, his finger was pushing through glass.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw Iris, like, falling, and he was going to catch her using the Speed Force. There was also a whole other story with Cyborg. You know,
right, like an actual origin story is going on there.
2 origin stories right there in the midst of all this happening, plus the whole nightmare scene coming to fruition from BVS.
Which would have been a great tie-in, which I think was a great scene, and it had a lot of potential.
Yeah. And all these actors, like, there's a lot more dialogue. Even what's his name? The guy who played Lex Luthor.
Oh yeah, what's his name?
Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he was like, Lex Luthor was a great character. I shot a whole bunch of dialogue, never made it.
Yeah, so it became a real deal. There was actual content there that people never saw. It's like the extended editions of Lord of the Rings. It's not just a little extra. It's like a full half hour, 45 minutes extra. Was it needed in the Lord of the Rings? Probably not. Do we still watch it anyways? Yes. But in this case,
I don't know. I think those ultra extended versions of the Lord of the Rings, wasn't it more than 45 minutes? Wasn't it like pushing close to, like, each movie now became 4 hours long?
I'm not sure it was that bad, but it was definitely at least at the minimum 45 minutes. Let's go with that. But the point is, in any case, it wasn't needed.
The difference was that Peter Jackson shot the movie like that, and then he had to trim it down for the theatrical release without any interference from, like, the studios or anybody else.
Exactly. In this
right, is opposite.
The exact opposite. Right, where there is a whole different movie and full of content that's new, fresh, never been seen, that actually could theoretically change this whole story of it. I'm not sure if I would go that far, though. It depends on which rumors are true and which are not, I guess.
Right. Now, I'm going to mention another podcast that was mentioned by your boy Kevin Smith, where he does he did a live podcast on, I want to say, Sunset Boulevard at a one of those pop-up bars, Star Wars pop-up bar, and he wanted to talk about this release, the Snyder Cut, and there were people in the audience that he brought on as guests that he knew from inside the industry, that they went to Zack Snyder's showing of his version of Justice League before it was done. It was like before all the visual effects were, like, really smoothed out and everything.
Sure.
And they said, what was released is a completely different movie. Yeah. Completely different.
And that's great. And that's so here's the issue. Here's the good and the bad. The good is we get something now. To speak of another podcast in another fashion, a YouTube podcast that isn't the same as, a regular podcast, but there is what the heck is it called? It's a show basically around trailers. They make fake trailers, honest trailers. That's the one.
Okay.
Great show, love it, great binge. It's hilarious to watch. It's a lot of fun. But they had a hoax episode or a fake episode this past a couple months ago. I think it was for April, about the Snyder Cut, of how it was the be-all and end-all of all movies. It was the ultimate superhero movie. All other superhero movies don't need to be made anymore. We've closed out the industry. This is the best thing ever. Everything gets fixed. And this was way before we really, really knew of all the stuff that we are now coming out. And now it's kind of sounding like maybe it's not going to, be the be-all and end-all, but it is a completely different movie and might actually fix where the DC universe is going. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, because then you had Suicide Squad come out, and it was completely different than the sneak peek trailers that were released at all the Comic-Cons.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it still did well. I still enjoy watching the movie, right?
It's a good movie. I like the additional pieces they did with their unique cut with a little bit extra of the Joker. I thought that was decent. I thought it had a little bit of flavor. It wasn't like desperately needed, but it was a nice little bit of flavor,
Right, but like same with David Ayers, and essentially David Ayers came right out. Actually, it was Jared Leto that came out, and it was after the first screening, and he was mad, and that was the big story because he was like, "Look, this is BS. All my dialogue was cut from this movie." Like he basically spent weeks like doing dialogue and all this other stuff, and to find out like next to none of it was used. And
which is
then
insane.
Then they released an extended version which had some of his scenes in with Margot Robbie added back, but only some of them.
Right.
I think it's like 2 scenes or something like that they added back in.
Right. And there's probably still more.
Oh yeah, they the way David Ayers put it was like you could have a Joker and Harley movie by itself with all the scenes they shot. Never mind the rest of it. Yeah. So, and the way David Ayers approached it was like everyone kept coming at him like, hey, you kind of like wimped out there. Why didn't you make the Joker the big bad in this movie? And he's like, yeah, you're right. It probably would have done better if I had done Joker as the big bad. You're right. And the other one was, hey, why did you have like the big like, you know, floating garbage in the middle of the city thing? Like, hasn't that been done already? He goes, yeah, you're right, and all this other stuff. And he goes, but then I think he got tired of it. He was like, look, I shot a completely different movie, and the studio, since they own it, they recut it. They own it. I don't own it. And
which seems to be a big difference between the Marvel and DC universe, right?
Right.
In that the movie that you see that goes on screen is exactly the movie that they put together. And yeah, maybe some minor stuff gets cut out, but nothing serious. Like they don't. And it seems to be it's because people talk it's homogenized and it's all, you know, you have to follow the rules and you have to look at the formatting and this, that, the other. But in some respects, as cookie cutter as it may seem, you kind of need that for consistency to build a universe and to actually get on screen what you actually film. You need some of that. With DC, it seems a lot of times it's kind of living out in the wild, wild west. It's like the studio can do whatever they want after your movie's finished and give you a whole different movie, and you're like, well, where's my movie?
Yeah.
What the hell, guys? And they don't seem like the directors and the producers have any, like, say, you know? And it's like, what the hell? Give us the real thing. Give us what they actually made. Why are you redoing it?
Yeah, and to be fair, when Man of Steel came out, that was like, I think that was around the same time as Iron Man 2 was coming out. And still, there was no thought of like creating a universe. Zack Snyder was like, look, I want to tell the Superman story, and it's going to be 5 movies long. And in these 5 movies, you can possibly spawn off like solo movies off of these heroes, like Aquaman, Flash, Wonder Woman, you know, Cyborg. You can spin them off. Even Batman. I mean, you don't necessarily all have to be Batman, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was the other surprise, was that Zack Snyder's vision, like, ultimately became Wonder Woman, her own standalone film, and that grossed like $1 billion? And then after that was Aquaman, another $1 billion. And it's like they all followed the Zack Snyder template, right? It's not really like super fun and like lighthearted.
Which is fine, it doesn't, and that's the thing, is I think it was a lot of peer pressure at that point. It's like, we want to be mini Marvel. Don't be mini Marvel. Marvel is Marvel, DC is DC. We don't go to DC expecting to see a Marvel movie. It's not the same universe. It's not the same feel. It's supposed to be grittier. It's supposed to be darker. It's supposed to be a little more depressing, I guess. But that's what we want to see. You know, we want to see the gritty. Yeah. And you guys would give us slapstick. We don't want slapstick. We want gritty. We want crazy. We want Looney Tunes, you know? Dark shit.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea of Batman is, look, he's grim and he's brooding and everything else. I mean, we don't need him, like, in the middle of the day, like, punching the Joker and, you know, having a catchphrase. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think, so all of this leads to the ultimate issue, which, of course, there are a lot of different versions of these movies out there that exist that may at some point. I know.
Yeah, there's an ultimate cut, there's a director's cut, theatrical cut, but now HBO stepped in and said, hold on. After that Joker movie came out with Joaquin Phoenix, what was it, made on a $30 million budget, and it grossed $1 billion? He's like, look, if you guys just leave us alone and let us put it out there,
you'll make money hand over fist.
All sorts of money. Sorts of money. And HBO's like, All right, here you go, Zack Snyder. You can finish your movie now. Here's the monies. However, the catch is you have to make it exclusive to our streaming service.
And that's where we are now, and that's the full circle back.
And that's the most confusing part about this, right? Because now HBO is going to launch HBO Max. Why is that confusing? Because right now they have HBO Go.
And HBO Now.
Which come with your subscriptions that you pay for or don't pay for or included in your package through your provider, however you get HBO.
Exactly. And HBO Go is the phone app version of HBO Now. HBO Now is a separate product, technically speaking.
Which gives you the HBO exclusive content.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
But now, so basically, I believe, if I'm to think about it correctly, and I'm not 100% on this, is that HBO Max replaces HBO Now. Or are we saying that they're both going to be around?
I believe the ultimate goal for HBO is to get everyone to start paying for that service if they want it, and they'll get everything that's on HBO, regardless if it's an HBO original or belongs to Warner Brothers. Because Warner Media owns HBO.
Right. Which there's another conflict too, because there's also the DCEU.
Yes.
Which is another streaming service.
Which has everything DC on it. Everything.
Already. Right. So the movie technically is a DC movie, so shouldn't it be on that?
Or is it a Warner Brothers movie? I think it's Warner Brothers Studio.
So it gets kind of funky where at some point what HBO should do if they really want to do it right is say, because I don't know how many people are on the DCEU streaming service, HBO Max picks up and does a combo like Disney Plus did with Hulu and basically buys a portion of it, and then it's HBO Max plus DCEU.
Hey, and how smart was Disney Plus? They were like, hey, look, we're going to release our own streaming service. And everyone was like, why? I could watch everything on Netflix. They pulled all their stuff off of Netflix.
And Netflix is desperate, right?
Yeah, Netflix is I forgot who. Oh, they merged with Nickelodeon. And so now they're going to have everything Nickelodeon. So they'll have SpongeBob.
Which
is huge. It's still huge. I mean.
Is it really still?
SpongeBob is still putting out episodes and is still making coin.
Kind of like The Simpsons.
Yeah. Simpsons, same thing. Disney owns The Simpsons, and they just put an original Disney, the first Disney Simpsons, which was like a 5-minute episode, which was brilliant, mind you. It was great.
Was that the one with the babies?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't watched that one yet because I'm afraid it'll ruin the timeline because I'm on season 22, and I've watched every single season. So I am completely binging all of The Simpsons.
And you know what, man? It's all going to come down to this, and I want to know what our listeners, viewers want to think about this. Are we at the point now where we're going to need a streaming app for everything that we watch? So are we going to need like a Showtime app? Like CBS tried it, right? Like CBS said hey, we're CBS. We're on, the regular airwaves. But if you want to watch all the cool stuff that we're coming out with, you got to have CBS All Access for, I think it's $8 a month.
Yeah, which isn't and that's the other piece of it. It's really about a price point, right? Because if you're talking about because what people will do is just get rid of cable at that point, right? So it really becomes how much you're paying for cable, and if you get all the apps of the things you want and all the channels you want, what does that look like? And which app do you get for which channels? It's going to get messy.
Oh, and top everything else off, for my daughter, she got a brand new MacBook Air, right?
Nice.
Yeah, very nice gift. It comes with the year Apple TV for free.
Oh, God, another one, yeah.
Yeah, and there you go, Apple TV Plus for free. The only catch is you can't really cast it to anything. You know what I mean? Right. You have to watch it on your device unless you've got an Apple TV.
Well, and to be fair, that's almost, I think, 100% original stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I started watching some of the things on there. I didn't watch. Everyone keeps talking about that show with Jennifer Aniston. It's like a talk show.
Okay.
Everyone says how good it is and like how well written it is. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet because I'm, watching about other things that we'll talk about on a future episode. But I saw a little bit of the Snoopy in space, which was cute. It's actually a cute thing. And there's other things on there that are more directed at kids.
Okay.
A lot of documentaries that I'm not really interested in. Like I'm not interested in the Beastie Boys documentary.
I can't imagine why.
Yeah,
Nothing against the Beastie Boys. I like their music, but not enough to listen to a documentary about them.
And it's not like a 20-minute or a 30 for 30 like you see on ESPN or something like that. Like they give you like a quick condensed whole story. Nah, this is a long. It's like this is a long documentary about the Beastie Boys.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. And then there's like an Oprah thing on there too. It's very, very different than the other streaming services I've noticed, like the stuff that's on there. I'm not sure who they were targeting at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it seemed very random.
Yeah, and I'm not sure it was targeted at me because, like, I think there's one show on there that Jason Momoa did. I think it's called C.
Okay.
But I haven't even gotten to that yet. Like I said, it's interesting enough to know that it's there, but it's not interesting enough like The Witcher with Henry Cavill.
Oh yeah. No, it's definitely not the same thing at all. Well, and it's interesting because, so Supergirl and the Flash are also DC, right? Going back to that for a second.
Yes. Well, they're CW.
They're CW, but they're DC characters. But yeah, they're on the CW, and that's owned by Netflix, or they have the rights on Netflix to it. So all of those shows are on Netflix. And the first thing to hit from Nickelodeon, because you're talking about that, is Avatar.
Yeah, The Last Airbender.
Yeah, which is ironic because we actually own all the episodes, but it's on streaming. It's like, well, maybe I'll just watch it there. It's just easier, right? But it's so interesting to see how this is going to play out with all the different shows. Like, okay, so something that I'm a huge fan of. I'm a Whovian, right? I'm a huge fan of Doctor Who. You can't really watch Doctor Who anywhere right now. In theory, from what I've seen briefly, and I haven't looked it up, you could actually watch Doctor Who on HBO Max.
Because Warner Brothers owns it?
They have a deal with the BBC.
Oh, yeah, that's a monopoly. Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Like, you can go to the BBC America app, and you can watch the last season of Doctor Who. But I like right. Season 11, Season 10, the older stuff. Not the old stuff. Not the silent...
I want to see the dude wearing the scarf again and K9.
Yeah, I'm fine with all that. There's a definitely distinction, the new Doctor versus the old Doctor fan club. I'm a new Doctor fan club. I can't stand the old stuff. It's just I find it too cornball. I'm like, the new stuff is cornball enough. Don't get me wrong. I know that. You
didn't like the old Daleks? How like boxy and cardboardy they looked?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Oh.
Hey, look, it's always supposed to be a little bit cheesy, but I like some decent acting if the sets are going to be cheesy.
Oh, you want some production value?
Something. Either give me entertainment value of the dialogue or cheesy animation and villains.
I grew up with the Doctor with the dude wearing the scarf, man. I don't know what to say. It's very hard for me to really get attached to any of the other Doctors that have come out since.
Well, and again, I'm not knocking the old stuff. I'm just saying it's just not my thing. I know there's a lot of people, and again, to have it all in one place is near to impossible.
Right? Yeah, that would be nice if they would have put it. Like I said, I tried to do the same thing when we were talking about catching up on Doctor Who, and I was like, well, let me give it a shot. I went on there. I'm like, wait a minute, this is only this season. I want to see before this season. No, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, and you'd have to go like to the radio shows and all these other places.
Oh yeah, and I did try that. Oh, I did try. Yeah. I tried that on YouTube, and I was like, oh, this is unwatchable.
Yeah, it's
unwatchable.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things going on with the streaming, but the HBO Max is a big thing, and it's not on the Fire Stick, and it's not on this, and it's not doing that. It's new, so give it some time, of course. But the question is, as you were saying, is what do you choose? How do you choose which is the best way to go to get most of the value? And it's going to really boil down to what do you want? Does it actually give you more choice, right? Because with cable, you get what you get, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can get the premium channels, but you get what channels they give you. Here's your 150 channels. Good luck. Find something.
Yeah.
Now we're going with who actually owns it. So you have to really know what you like to say, okay, I really know I like this show, or I really like this production company, or I like this studio. And you have to know what they make.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to really figure out, okay, now I know what they make. I know who makes it. Where are they going?
Yeah,
what service are they on?
Now, I had a free service called Vudu, right? And
I remember Voodoo, yeah.
Yeah, and if you bought a movie like a Blu-ray, like at Walmart or something like that, and you bought it and you used the Walmart Pay app, essentially you didn't even need the disc. It was in your catalog. You could watch it on anything. Now
Right.
that's going to all be obsolete. Who's going to do that anymore if you got all the streaming services?
Right. Well, that's the real thing is people are going to get so frustrated with the streaming services. Are they going to go back to buying physical movies and TV, especially TV shows? Not really so much movies, I think. I think it's really going to be about the TV show crowd, right? Because that's where you get the seasons of stuff, like, Scrubs, for example, and it's only on Hulu. Or Cheers, which is only on Netflix, I think now.
Yeah, it's only on Netflix.
Or, a TV series that only Disney has, or a TV series that HBO Max is only going to have, like the Watchmen and all of that stuff. It's all going all over the place.
Look at the backlash from when Netflix said, "Hey, next month we're taking Friends off of all of our streaming platforms," and people lost their minds.
Oh yeah, and that's been over for how long? I mean, seriously, people?
At least 10 years it's been off.
Mm-hmm. But hey, they replaced it with such things as the Back to the Future series and Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. So,
Oh, the Back to the Future, that's tough, man, because I really like those movies. Except for the second one, I really like those movies.
It's hard. It's a hard pull because, like, yeah, they're good. They're not Friends good, or Benjamin Button's on there now, by the way. I'm just saying, it's not. How
you brought that into this conversation beyond me. Oh my gosh. Oh.
But needless to say, there's a lot of options in how you're going to choose. And if you're going to choose to use HBO Max,
I'm lost. I don't know. I still don't know. With my service, because where I live, I don't have to pay for cable. It's included in the association fees. But I get all the premium channels. But because of that, I can't get that HBO Max app. I have to get the other app, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And I guess if people actually bought HBO by itself and it didn't belong to a package, then I guess those people would be able to get Max.
The only people that it's very rare, and that's part of the complaint, is that if it was on like a Roku or a Fire Stick or something, you could do it. Now, you could get it through PlayStation.
Oh, great.
the PlayStation apps, because they have all those apps. You can get it through there.
Yeah, in their little store. I see it pop up every now and then.
Yeah, I have a couple of the apps through there because that's where we watch it on our big TV, because we don't have a smart TV, so we watch it on, we have Netflix on there, and we have Crunchyroll, I think, and a couple of different things.
Yeah, there's the anime one, right? I keep forgetting. Funimation, Crunchyroll. Who's the one that has all the Studio Ghibli on it?
Actually, that's another question, because Studio Ghibli, we believe, has just been exclusively put on HBO Max.
There you go. There you go, man.
Going all over the place to get your stuff, man. It's a crazy world. But as crazy as it is, we know there is a small bit of sanity left. And do you know where that sanity is, Ernie?
Is it The Good Doctor?
It is The Good Doctor. That is where the sanity is. And we do have another special right here, right now.
Can't wait.
So, yes, please enjoy another brief segment with The Good Doctor right here, right now on Two Nerds and a Joke. And we will be right back.
And now, sports analysis of fictional characters with Dr. Jason von Stietz.
All right. Happy to be back. Happy to be talking about another fictional character within the context of sports psychology. So today I want to talk about Sarah Connor, the mother of the savior of the world. Depending on what timeline we're talking about. I'm mainly talking about Terminator 1 and 2. Those are my personal favorites. Yeah, I grew up watching those movies over and over again. So, and then I might be a little weird. I actually like Terminator 1 more than Terminator 2.
Oh, really? Okay. That is unusual. Usually I find it the other way around.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's probably the thing that makes sense, and that's probably correct. That's probably the right decision. But I like kind of like small independent movies. I love Michael Biehn, maybe because I grew up in the 80s and that he was like the action star, so at least for some of my favorite movies. So I love Michael Biehn. By the way,
he did in the Abyss was awesome, wasn't it?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And I heard that he was just cast in. Oh man, I hope I'm not getting this wrong, but I think I heard he was cast in Mandalorian season 2.
Yes, he was.
Yes,
he was.
So I'm talked about that. And now, as far as Sarah Connor, so we first meet her in Terminator 1. At that time, when we get to know her, she's a struggling waitress. She's still an emerging adult. So I don't know if they say her age, but she's very young. She is probably in her first apartment with a roommate or just kind of early on in life. And she is, later on in the movie, she even says like something like, "Save the world? I can't even balance a checkbook." Because people today, I don't know if anybody balances a checkbook because of online banking and all that, but that used to be a thing.
I remember.
Kiddies, there was a time when we used to have to do this thing called balancing a checkbook.
Yeah.
And it was never right, but we still did it.
Yeah. So people today don't know what that is, but that was an adult task. It was an adult responsibility. So that's the Sarah Connor that we first meet. And things, and she's not necessarily a great waitress. I think we we come across that.
Yeah.
I think we see her making some mistakes with some orders. A little kid puts some ice cream in her apron or something, and everybody around her just kind of laughs and like, she deserved that, haha. And she's defeated. She feels very small. She doesn't feel like the savior of humanity. She doesn't feel like she's going to raise the savior of humanity. And then throughout the course of that first movie, she goes through some really serious traumas. So an unstoppable killing machine travels back in time and kills her loved ones, kills people who just have the same name as her. She's surprised by Kyle Reese, played by Michael Biehn, who she thinks is also trying to kill her. So everything around her is chaotic and out of her control. And she sees all kinds of people die in front of her. And we do, after that first movie, so things turn out pretty well for her, within that context.
Relatively speaking.
Relatively speaking. She meets the love of her life, Kyle Reese, who then unfortunately passes away. But she does survive. She kills the unstoppable killing machine. She ends up pregnant with the love of her life's baby, who is now going to, save humanity. She drives off into a sunset, which is great, but she probably has PTSD, so we would have to like really do an assessment and ask her all the specific questions, but she most likely ended up with PTSD. So when someone has PTSD, just some quick points, they do a lot of avoidance. They try to not think about what happened. They try to avoid areas where they could be in danger or that remind her of the trauma. And it's very common to have nightmares. And they have this unfortunate process where they end up thinking or ruminating about what happened, but then also trying to block it out and try to avoid thinking about it. And when we see when we see Sarah Connor again in the second movie, well, for one, we know she's in a psych ward, so we know, even though she's right, even though she is correct in knowing that, the machines are out to get us and they're coming pretty soon, like in 1996 or something.
Yeah, it was in the 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't the 90s. Doomsday. Yeah, go on. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to.
Yeah, so we've made it this far, so that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even though she is correct, she is not necessarily handling it in a mentally healthy way, and it's apparent to the doctors, and she's, for whatever reason, she's admitted into a psych ward. And we also know that she has those nightmares. She sees herself in a playground. She sees herself happy and innocent, not the person she is today, but the person she used to be, playing with kids at a park. And then she's desperately trying to warn them. She's banging on the fence. She's I think she's screaming something, but I don't know if we can make out what she's saying. And she's trying desperately to warn those innocent people, warn herself, her past self, about what's going to happen. And then boom, and then the nukes go off and everybody's dead. And then Sarah wakes up. That I think they're trying to get across that that's her reoccurring nightmare, and that nightmare kind of says it all. She's desperately trying to warn people. She's in the psych ward. She's trying to tell them over and over again, here's the truth. Here's what's gonna happen. And then people just ignore her. They don't hear what she's saying. They only see the trauma, the dysfunction. They see her PTSD, and they don't see that her message is actually correct. And then what's going to happen to them, unless she's able to save them, they will most likely die because of Arnold and the machines, or maybe not Arnold at that point, but because of the machines. Yeah.
Or wasn't they Robert Patrick, right? The T-1000.
Oh yeah.
Yes. At that
Yeah.
point. Now, for a character like her, she obviously post-traumatic. That's a huge thing. I've known a lot of people who suffer from it. There's triggers. There's all kinds of things that go along with that. All kinds of nasty stuff. For her as a sports, though, I'm struggling a little bit to see where she'd fit as a character type, as what kind of sport I think she'd play.
Sure.
Because that's a little more difficult for her. Now, I because she's a wiry character. You know what actually might work, and see what you think about this. Maybe some sort of like a heavy mental sport, like you have to have a lot of concentration, something like a gymnast, or like somebody who does like a Cirque du Soleil act, or somebody who has to have like a fear of something big that would really affect their sport, right? Because in football, there's nothing extreme. You're not going to get afraid of getting hit per se. It's just getting hit. But like if you're doing an extreme sport like that, or maybe a motorcycle, somebody who does something extreme sports of some sort, and they had some sort of traumatic accident, even like a race car driver, right, where they had a traumatic accident, and reliving that in their mind is literally what's causing them not to be able to perform. So that might be, maybe that's, what do you think, Ernie? You think that might be kind of
Well, here's what I was thinking. I was going to throw it to you, Doc, about this. In the 70s, there was a football team, Marshall Football, right? They were chartering a plane, and essentially two of the players, they overslept their alarm to get to the plane, so they had to drive back to the university. That plane crashed with all their teammates and all their coaches, so they lost their whole team. Now, the whole thing was that this university, the only thing they had going for them and the town around them was this football team. So the decision was made, do we continue the football, or do we allow some time for this to pass and mourn over? Are we doing them a disservice if we pick up the season? That type of stuff. And what would you say to that player who missed the call and wasn't on that plane, and now he has to come back and like essentially and I don't know if you saw the movie We Are Marshall, but it tells the story about that, and it's a great movie to watch. It has what's his name, Falcon, a young Falcon from Marvel. He's in it. He actually plays the character who missed the flight, right? and he basically has to grip. Anytime he's playing the game, he's playing it all out, and like people don't understand. And he's like saying, "Look, that's not that's not your number. That's so and so's number." And he's talking about the players who died on that plane. So how do you deal with like a player that's still committed to the sport and he's still playing it all out, but he has this, like you said, almost like a I don't know is that PTSD? Would you call that?
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. It's
almost like survivor's remorse, almost.
Yeah.
Anthony Mackie, by the way, for anybody who wants to look.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, it might be more closer to survivor's remorse rather than a PTSD. I don't know.
Yeah, and survivor's remorse could definitely fit into the diagnosis of PTSD, but it definitely sounds like there was a trauma and a severe trauma, and then that is affecting that player's mental health, affecting that player's behavior. So yeah, it sounds like it could be PTSD. But go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so that's kind of the first and foremost, right? Because he's going to have, whether it's survivor's remorse and a PTSD or a combination, as you said, it kind of fits together. The first step for you then to diagnose is obviously first, and then what? How do you get them back to perform at all, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's performing, right? He's the guy out there like laying the hits on people. He's doing his thing, and he's like laying it into these new guys that are just like, hey, I'm sorry, that I'm not. And he's like, you don't understand. And that's how I felt like Sarah Connor comes across in going from Terminator 1 to Terminator 2, right?
So you have anger.
Yeah, you have Terminator 1 where like she's getting, like you said, she's a very simple girl, probably starting off in life, has a really crappy job, and she thinks this is what life is going to be like. Crap, let me like just buckle in and enjoy the ride for what it is. Like she has a boyfriend or something like that too, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm trying to remember. No. Her roommate has the boyfriend.
Oh, yeah.
Her roommate has the boyfriend because the Terminator is basically trying to find her and kill her. And then, like, Michael Biehn shows up and lays this heavy – I mean, I don't know how heavy this could be. Like, somebody say, hey, look, you don't know this now, but in, like, 5 years, the world's going to come to a tragic end, and your kid is going to be the one to, like, fight back. Yeah. And he's going to credit you – for like him being that way. So like she has to absorb all that, and in 2, like you said, she's going around telling people this, and somehow, some way she ended up in the sanitarium over there in LA. And every time she says it, everyone just thinks she's just bat crazy, right? And even her kid thinks she's bat crazy, and he's not going into it. And when you sit, and that's why I said I kind of see her like gripping with that, because she's looking around and I think she says it in Terminator 2. She's like, I see all these people and all I see are dead people walking and they just don't know it yet. Like I see skeletons, and that's she has the forebodingness of the playground, the nuke going off, and like everybody being disintegrated, and she's there also like feeling the burn of it. So she has to like carry that on, like saying, I'm surviving it, but nobody else will. Like everybody out here, I can basically disassociate myself from, because they're going to be dead anyways. Like the police, I don't care what they do to me, they're going to be dead anyways. This doctor, I don't care what he does to me, he's going to be dead anyways. So I think that's how she lives the remaining part of her life from Terminator 2 on, which I think impacts John Connor. But like as far as like a sports figure, like the closest thing I can get would be that football player that he's kind of like, he's going to live the rest of his life like I should have been with my teammates. I let my team down. And I think that's what she's feeling it all like as well, because like no matter what she does, she feels like she's letting down the entire human race.
Yeah.
Right.
So how would you deal with that? Like you have that player, he's like, I feel like I let them down by not being there.
Woo! Yeah, those those are tough questions. If first I'll summarize it real quick and then I'll go into more detail. So my short couple sentence summary is, oh crap. It takes a village. It takes lots of resources, and it's complicated. And then, like, to get into more of what I would want to do, well, the first thing, that person, that player, or Sarah Connor, they would need to decide for themselves what they want to do. So my first step is just being there, just listening, just helping them to feel heard and understood and get things off their chest. Nobody can understand what it's like, especially for Sarah Connor. For that one player, maybe there's been a couple other people that have experienced something similar, or maybe not. Maybe no one else has experienced that same thing. So first, just listening to them, and then as far as whether they should play or not play, it's complicated because maybe they should not play and then just work on their mental health. Maybe playing is taking too much of a toll on them. Or also maybe playing is something that they need to do. It gives them a sense of identity, a sense of purpose, a sense of honoring and grieving the loss of what might have been their entire social circle, the entire emotional support system. So that's a very tricky area to navigate. And I would say that as far as any decision that the player makes, it would be the right decision for them at that given time. And then I would just want to support them through that process. And then as far as, like, let's say that the player said, I do want to continue playing, then I would want to see that player, in session on a very consistent basis, at least once a week, if not more. I think it's also helpful to get everybody on board and then maybe have a meeting with the coaching staff, maybe have team meetings where, because the team is dealing with this too. Not they have to deal with him and his whatever disruptive behavior he's having. And then also imagine for each individual player, they're putting on this jersey that used to be worn by someone who just passed away. And maybe these are also friends of the players. And then even if they're not friends, there's, I forget vicarious trauma. There's still a thing called vicarious trauma where you something happened, you hear about it, right. And even though you didn't see it, even though you didn't participate in it, you are traumatized just by knowing what happened. And that's a very real thing. So I would want any player that's involved, anybody that knows Sarah Connor, for the movie example, they should at least talk to someone at least once and then decide for themselves if they want to continue with therapy. At the very least, I think team building sessions with the football team where, we work on team cohesion, we work on, just having fun and bonding, that would be really important. So in Sarah Connor's example, just anybody who is part of this ragtag group of people trying to save the world, we're gonna get together. We're not just gonna focus on saving the world. We're gonna bond. We're gonna hang out around a campfire. We're going to do team building activities together, just stuff like that. And then let me also comment on the specific sports for Sarah Connor. She does, when we see her in Judgment Day in Terminator 2, she is very capable. So she's completely transformed. So she kind of strikes me as being able to compete in whatever sport she wants. So that might be gymnastics, that might be football, whatever it would be, because she's super driven. She's very intelligent about how she does things. In the movie, we know that she kind of hung out with these different, almost like warlord guys, like drug runners, gun runners, stuff like that. And she was learning everything she could, and she was off the grid, like in the desert in Mexico, and just learning, constantly learning, and then not just learning and not doing anything with it, but learning and then practicing how to shoot, practicing how to disassemble guns and put bombs together and all, set up booby traps and all kinds of cool stuff like that. So she's great at learning. The sport that strikes me as being Sarah Connor's sport for me, and this kind of shows like what sports I follow a little bit more, and MMA. So
yeah.
All right.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah. I like it. I like that a lot.
Yeah, because when we see her in the psych ward, she has a really high fight IQ. You know, she's really smart about the way she fights. So she's much smaller than I forget what those guys are called, but orderlies, the big guys who carry her around and keep her in check. She's very smart about how she fights them. She sneaks up behind one. I think she kicks him behind the knee. Then she like grabs a stick and then hits them in the back of the head. So first she knocks him to the ground and then she hits him in the back of the head to incapacitate him. So she's very smart. When she's attacking that poor unfortunate psychiatrist.
Those are the real victims here. Those are the real victims.
He's the real victim here. Let's not.
Yeah, he's just trying to do his best. He doesn't know that the apocalypse is coming.
Right.
Yeah. She gets a syringe and then she gets bleach and then fills the syringe up and then puts it in his neck. So that I don't know if she was trained to do that or if she was just thinking and improvising on the spot, but it's very intelligent. So I definitely see her as someone who has lots and lots of weapons, lots of knowledge, and isn't afraid to use it. So I think MMA, there's so many different skills, jiu-jitsu, judo, Muay Thai, boxing. So she would be someone who would just have all of those skill sets and then have like no hesitation to use them. Maybe be a little bit impulsive, maybe attack too much, and kind of bend the rules too much. But I think she would be a very effective MMA fighter.
Oh, very good. Yeah, you're right. All those disciplines that you have to put together. Yeah. Oh, one side note. I wanted to know what the good doctor thinks about this.
Sure.
Do you think that the movies that were made after Terminator 2 are kind of retelling Terminator 2?
Well, the most recent one definitely was, and a lot of people didn't like it. I thought it was pretty good. I would need to watch it again. It was fun enough. It was trying to recreate Judgment Day, and you really can't recreate that. So then, I think for what it was good enough. I think it seems like the movies after that, they were really trying to capitalize on just like the lightning in the bottle, like the beauty of Judgment Day, and trying to tell like the next step. And then maybe people like the movies, maybe you don't, but they didn't. It was really hard to kind of keep that storytelling momentum going, and it didn't necessarily work. I hear Sarah Connor Chronicles is good, but I haven't been able to check it out yet.
Yeah, neither have I. Because I was a follower of the whole Terminator storyline and everything else, because I liked Salvation. That was actually pretty decent. But like what I saw the common thread in the movies after Terminator 2, they were kind of like, all right, it's like they're trying to redo Terminator 2. They're completely forgetting about 1. And when you go back and you watch 1 and that whole story about Sarah Connor and like how that particular character like changes over the course of the next few movies. I wish they would get back to something like that, because that was pretty deep, when how Reese kind of explained like how dark and bleak things were, but like John would keep them all together about stories that she was telling him, about his interactions with his mom. And I guess that's how Reese kind of like started falling for like this idea of who she was, right?
Right.
Yeah. Right. So then, I don't know, man. I hope that they keep going with this. I like seeing Terminator movies. Yeah. I say if you're gonna keep bringing Arnold back, sure, why not? I'm nothing wrong with seeing CGI on the screen. It doesn't bother me.
As long as it's well done, it has to be pretty well. That doesn't look too fake. Well, I think this is great. I love the Sarah Connor Chronicles. It makes me want to go back and rewatch the movies again. It's very interesting, and if you watch it all together, how does it really fit now, especially with the distance and ages between the movies and the Chronicles and everything else going on? So I think there'd be a lot of interesting things to kind of look at, and it's a character too. So thank you guys very much, and of course, as always, Doctor from you.
I'm Dr. Jason, and insert tagline here.
Fantastic. We'll see you guys next time.
Seamless transition.
And we return in glory. Again, another great segment with the good doctor. Always a lot of fun to talk to him. He has a great time doing it, too.
Like we could, do, a 3-hour-long podcast with that dude.
Right. Oh, crazy. And, last week's episode did really well, or 2 weeks ago now, episode with, check it out if you didn't. We did a full thing on the romance and life and times of one of our favorite redheaded fire females from the show on Game of Thrones.
Yeah, GOT.
Yeah, she's so hot. But she is. I'm sorry. She just is. Get me a wildling. That's what I need in my life. But yeah, so he definitely can. And we're going to continue to do more segments with him too, because it's just so much freaking fun to do it. So many more characters we're going to do. But as Ernie said earlier in the episode, please make sure you send us an email at twonerdsandAjoke@gmail.com. 2nerdsajoke. And let us know what you think about all these streaming services and about the Good Doctors episodes if you're enjoying that. And let us know what you think is next. And I want to say, Ernie, are you all caught up on A Good Place?
I didn't see the latest season.
Did you finish watching it?
I did not see the latest season.
Okay, you need to watch it. I just finished it. Oh my God, it's so good.
And it's done, right?
Nope, there's one more season. Season 4, they are giving it an actual conclusion. It has one more season left, and that's an actual closing. We're done. This is what we expected. We have a finale in mind. Here's what we're doing.
Good old Eleanor, right?
Oh, tell you what, dude, that show has such a great take on morality and being a good person. I will tell you what. It's such a middle of the road view of it,
That's what I learned. That show taught me the word humble brag.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never heard that before, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I know people who do that all the time.
Yeah.
Humble brag.
And it's so interesting because especially in the third season, which is, I think, I'm not sure if it's the best, but it is seriously up there. It really gets into how do you really count the points for being a good person. And it's such an interesting conversation.
Yeah, and it turns out that the bad place has been fudging the numbers, making it so impossible for anyone to get good numbers.
Can I give you a spoiler?
Go on, give me a little spoiler.
A little spoiler is they aren't.
Ah!
Just a little spoiler. And you know why? And this is, I'm sorry, just a few minutes before we leave the episode, I gotta give this.
Okay.
So the catch is, and the perfect example, you get a tomato, right, from the grocery store. You're buying organic. Cool. But you know what? Even though you get points for getting the tomato, you lose points because it was harvested by illegal people in another country. They were actually in servitude indentured, so you're basically promoting slavery while you buy that tomato. So even though buying the tomato gives you points, you lose a bunch of points from everything else that happened to that tomato.
Right, buying the flowers, buying the tomato.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the world's just so complicated that even good deeds could have unnoticed or unrecognized or unknowable bad consequences.
Reusing a bag as opposed to buying a plastic bag
may not make a difference.
Yeah.
Because where was that bag that's remade made? Who is it made by?
Yeah. Is it made
The
by
supply chain.
child labor in China?
Exactly. So very interesting conversation. That's a whole other episode.
I like the story. It's so well written, and the cast that they put together, they're all comedians.
It's so good to watch them play off each other. It's awesome. I could see them just doing improv and just hanging out for an hour and be hilarious.
Yeah.
So good times. But at least that you can watch for the moment on Netflix. So catch it while you can.
Yeah, until NBC comes out with their own streaming service.
Lord help us all. It's insane. But amidst all the insanity, you always have us to kind of help clear the path to more sane times. And Ernie will always be able to get us out of every episode with a very solid.
Peace out.
Peace out, everybody. We will talk to you guys next time.
And that's another episode of Two Nerds and a Joke. Follow Robert and Ernie on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and subscribe to their YouTube channel.